He's managed to get another view of her leopard.
I haven't managed to get another view, unfortunately, but we have found him and he is eating. And I cannot believe how trusting this little leopard is, because we drove around very, very close to where he is. I'm going to try. This is astounding. This is utterly, utterly astounding. He's over there. Gosh. Little Vutomi, and he's eating something. He's found something to eat. And we found him by a combination of listening and smell. There he is. That's him at the bottom, yeah. I can see spots there. Okay. I'm going to turn around. We'll get a better view. We've got him now. Sure. This is crazy. Little Vutomi, you trusting little thing. He was so well hidden in that bush. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, I'm going to give him plenty of space here. We'll scoot around. Now Judy, welcome on our live safari. Judy, you want to know who gives the leopards their names. Oh, there he goes. Oh, here we go again. Judy, Vutomi was named by Shanae, who works as a guide at Coral. Let's just see where he's going to go. I'm not going to make the same mistake twice. And it's a combination of different methods. One is democratically. The people that see the leopards will put forward 2 suggestions and it's voted on which ones are the best. There's usually a preference given to the guides that know those leopards the best. So for example with Shongile and Hosanna, that preference was given to Taxon and Aubrey because they were from their property. With Vutomi, Shanae, because she knew him the best. Hey little one, which means life, by the way, because there was a long time that it was presumed that he hadn't made it. Okay, let's get ourselves turned around. I think he's going back to the pan, which is marvelous for us because it's a bit tricky in here. Goodness gracious. I haven't even called him in yet because I wasn't sure we were going to keep him. Now Macy, you want to know if this grass is always this high or if it dies during the winter months. Yes, it completely disappears during the winter months. You're usually left with very little grass, often sometimes dry sand. And I'm sorry, I have to concentrate really hard now just to make sure that we don't break the car, essentially. So yes, the grass disappears. Yes, this is our hardest time of year for searching for leopards, for finding a lot of things actually, just because it is so very thick. But sometimes we get lucky. Hey little boy. Sorry, I actually didn't finish answering the names question. The other way that it is sometimes decided is by the guide who first found them as cubs, found the den site. He's going to go straight into that beautiful place where we last got surprised by quarantine. How amazing is that? There's one other way that leopards are named, and that is by essentially, look, he's looking for terrapins. There he goes. He's stalking forward. I'm not going to reposition now. I don't want to mess anything up for him. This little leopard needs all the chances he can get. I don't know what he's after. It's probably a terrapin. He is the master, though. Tenure is the third way that leopards are named. Who's been working for a long time in a certain lodge, and so on. Who deserves the honor of naming one of these little leopards. There's a fourth way, and that is by popular vote of a large Nat.Geo wild audience, as was done with Vutomi. So our Safari Live viewers got to name Tundi's cub Tamba was named by popular vote. he's after. Okay, we can do some shuffling around now while he's stopped and while he's settled. If he starts to stalk again, then we will immediately switch off. But with terrapins, it's a slightly different process. It's not like he's hunting a scrub hare or an impala. Hey Ilana, lovely to hear from you again. Have we got time to do this? Yeah, we do. Ilana, you want to know what language the leopards' names are. Ilana, of course, is a very familiar name. She's a regular viewer of Safari Live. Ilana, most of them are in Xitsonga, so the Shangaan language. Sometimes they are in Zulu. Here we go, mister. Let's wait and see what you do. Sometimes they're in Zulu, sometimes they're in English, as was the case with Anderson. Sometimes they're named after the area that they're in. So, there's a whole load of terrapin heads sticking out of the water that he's looking at. Terrapins are what's kept him alive while his mom's been away. He's survived off eating terrapins just like little Shongile has. They share a very similar story in a way, these two. Both have had to face survival, and both have turned to terrapins. They're the heads sticking up. And one thing Vutomi's learned very well is the value of patience, and that's what he's going to do now. Now there's something that I haven't done, and this is shared the sighting with the other guides around me, so you'll have to just forgive me while I do that. You can look at the beautiful leopard while I do. The stations, if you copy me, I've got Vutomi at 3 in a row pan, static for now. And if I could ask Taylor a huge favour through Megan, or James, whoever happens to be closest to their game drive radio, if they could call it in as well, at 3 in a row pan. Yeah, A-firm. Copy, he came as a bit of a surprise. Oh, you're welcome, Ali. It's just myself. Sorry, everybody. Just chatting to the other guides. Shanae and I are just discussing the astounding distance that little Vutomi has walked today. Keeping us all guessing, aren't you, mister? That's the way leopards do it. The ghosts of the bush. He went in the opposite direction last time Shanae saw him. Perfectly poised. For all the world, it looks as though he's just sitting and contemplating, perhaps thinking about life. But what he's really doing is waiting for the opportunity for a terrapin to become his next meal. Oh, there we go. See? The moment's here. We know he's good at it. So clever, you know. He's spotted a pair of terrapin that have got close to the edge of the water, but we'll stay on him for now. They've just moved away again. And he's going to lie down on his belly and settle there patiently and wait for the next opportunity. Megan, I'm sorry. I wasn't actually listening to your question at all. Sorry. My mind glossed over it. Oh, there we go. Mario, you would like to know if Vutomi is older than Hosana. He is. Now let me just try and work out by how much. Maybe those of you can help me out with that. I think he's about 2-3 months older than, or 2.5 months older than Hosana. Am I correct in that? He must be, in theory, close to 1.5 years. Oh, wow, okay, 4 months older than Hasana. I doubted myself on that because he is so very, very small when compared to Hasana. He's about the size Hasana was at around about 10 months old. A fact that Brent argued with me repeatedly. What is going on? I'm distracted. Okay, no, he's hunting. We'll stay on him. I'll explain why I was distracted in a moment. Here he goes. Is there another opportunity? What has he seen? Look at that. That perfect leopard crawl, belly to the ground. Here he goes. You'll just see the odd... Here he goes again. You'll see the odd ripple of the terrapins as they move closer to the side of the water. It's a difficult time of day, this, because it's not really warm enough for the terrapins to want to come out to bask. But they might decide to come out, or just closer to the surface of the water, or the edge of the water. He is not like Hasana. He doesn't go diving in necessarily. Or unnecessarily, should I say. Ali, I agree. Isn't he looking stunning? Vutomi is looking really, truly beautiful. I think he is a really, truly beautiful leopard. But then I haven't merely met that many leopards that I've turned around and said, what an ugly leopard. There he goes. Ah, in the water! And he's got it! Well done, little chap. Now comes the hard part. That was expertly done. And there he goes, off to find a nice bush to crunch into his terrapin. He's going to go and do what leopards do, which is find somewhere comfortable to go and eat his prize. And I'm just going to let him decide where he wants to do that. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be nice and close to us. I didn't want him to feel as though we were in any way going to go and steal his terrapin, because in his mind, we could. In my mind, there could not be anything further from it. Well done, Vutomi. Well done. Okay, so now he's in the long grass. I want to stick with this view for now, just because I want to just gauge his mood and his reaction to us around his kill. I've found that with Shongile, since Karula hasn't been around, she's just felt that need for a little bit more personal space, especially with her kills. And Vutomi I found to be the same as well. His spots are just there. I just want to gauge his reaction. Sit here for a sec. Make it clear to him that we're not going in there to steal his kill. Okay. Alright. I think we're okay. Let's reposition. And let us think this through. Seb, if you see a good view, just shout. Otherwise I'm going to go all the way around. No, I'm going to have to go all the way around. Watch him crunch open his terrapin dinner. His tantalizing terrapin dinner. Could we call it that? Probably not. Okay, there we go. Sorry. Ali's just joined us in the sighting. Ali is currently guiding for Chitwa. And I'm going to try and get her a good view of this as well. There we go. We can just see the tops of his head. I'm sure he's going to come back out again. Just eating his terrapin. So the reason I was distracted earlier, by the way, was there was this very low circling helicopter And I just wanted to make sure that we weren't in the way of an official operation. It could have been a darting, anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure we weren't in their way. So that was the reason for my distraction. But we're back focused once again on Vutomi and his dinner. What a special surprise you were, little man. How would you do me the kindness of introducing me to your mother before I leave? And one thing I've noticed Vutomi has become an expert at is cracking open the terrapins. He's got so much experience in doing this. It's been, how many months is it since we've been watching him hunt terrapins? Must be a good 3 months now. He knows just how to go about it. And it's the process that we've seen Shungile learning as well. Now boy, there we go, you wanted to know how do they go about breaking the shell. Boy, with great difficulty in certain circumstances, and for very large terrapins or tortoises, they actually can't. It's basically impossible for them to. And in those situations, well, they just have to eat what they can try and get to, if they can get to any part of the terrapin. And we've seen Shungile actually leave a terrapin that she caught essentially completely undamaged. She didn't manage to get through the shell, because remember that shell is solid bone. They do, however, have very powerful jaws, so if they get a relatively small terrapin, and I would say that this terrapin is quite small, what they'll aim to do is crunch down on the shell initially, and then try and pull away at the slightly thinner edges around where the terrapin's legs and its head stick out, so essentially the holes in the shell, and they'll try and prise it open from there. But I suppose each leopard will have a different technique. I imagine it's something similar to opening up an oyster or something like that. Not the easiest thing to do. But isn't it fascinating how both of our young leopards have basically made their living off eating terrapins for now. Terrapins and tortoises. I'm very impressed with their resilience. Well, our tiny little leopard is hidden in the grass, so let's go and look at James searching for some of the smaller things in life.
Searching for the smaller things indeed, and that smaller thing has turned into a much larger thing. It is Tingana. We can hear him going, just over there. So we're going to just see if he doesn't come down this way. We came towards Twin Dams, where there was a lot of impala going very upset, and now we're going to, what should we do? Do you want to wait here or do you want to go down?
Oh yeah, okay.
I think let's go down. Come everybody, let's go and have a look. I've never seen Tingana on foot. I'd quite like to see him on foot. We've got a nice view from up top here, and I'm very pleased, I just want to tell you, I'm very pleased that Vutomi is eating at the moment. We saw him looking very skinny the other day. But I must say, Megan said to me, she's the director by the way, she said to me on the radio, she said, Vutomi just caught a terrapin, it's so cool. Which to my response was, yes, unless you happen to be the poor terrapin, which I thought was very funny. But nobody else laughed, so I thought I'd just share it with you in case you thought it was quite funny. Oh, he's called twice, which tells me that, I mean, this is an unusual time of the day for a leopard to be calling. I say that though, I've been in this very area with Tingana while he's been calling at this time of the day, so that's quite interesting. But normally it's a nighttime call. And let's see if we don't bump into him coming up towards the drainage line here. There was some impala alarm calling, like I said. Oh, that's Hippo. Hippo calling now. And I wonder if he's not calling because he can maybe smell other leopards, the youngsters. his daughter and his son. Let's pop up in here. What a great walk we've had today. The weather's just been, well, it's cold, but it's been so beautiful. The light has been amazing, spectacular insects, and of course the company of David and the fine example of humanity that is Herbert Causa in front of us, now tracking Tingana. See if he calls again from here. We think he was right in this little patch of grass. And when we drive along drainage lines, we often think that leopards are going to be sort of, careful David, we often think that leopards are going to be inside on the drainage lines in the sand, but more often than not, they're moving along the periphery of the drainage areas. And that's where we think we'll get him, perhaps on a game path like this. Some arrow-marked babblers calling. Let's pop through here. Now we keep listening for birds. David, you right there? Some hornbills up there. They don't seem to be looking particularly terrified. Let's keep going. Some impala alarm calling. Alright, while we concentrate here, we don't have much light left. Let's go back across to Cheetah Plains and life.
Life, and I suppose a little bit of death involved as well, as... Oh, you can actually hear the crunching. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment so you can hear as he tucks into the terrapin. Oh, actually, sorry, we're right next to a vehicle, so I'm not going to be too quiet, because otherwise all we're going to do is eavesdrop on their conversation by mistake, which we don't really want to do. Vutomi's tucking into his terrapin, and James is absolutely right. His sort of honed skills in cracking open this terrapin, or these terrapins, has indeed come at a price. And James, thank you for pointing that out. I actually forgot that a picture was posted on social media with a picture of his missing tooth. He's lost a canine, and that probably has in fact come from trying to break open terrapins. Perhaps there was some kind of weakness, perhaps there was a crack in his tooth, but either way it has essentially broken off, and that unfortunately at his age would have been a permanent tooth, so there won't be any chance of that regrowing. But it will be another identifying feature of a young Vutomi as he gets older and older and bigger. I wonder where he'll end up.
I'm not too sure. They can get quite big. But I would say average about this size.
And hello to Tucker, who is 4 years old. Tucker, are you a little bit worried about the leopard eating all of the turtles where we live? Because Tucker, you don't need to worry too much. We've got so many different terrapins, or turtles as you called them, in the water, that any leopard that ate all the terrapins would be far too big to even move. So you don't need to worry at all about the turtles. They'll be absolutely fine. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and hundreds and thousands of them out here. And remember that this poor little leopard must have been feeling very hungry. So you don't need to worry too much about the terrapins. At the moment he's just a blur of spots. However, I have a feeling that before this evening is through, young Vutomi is going to go back and start again and search for the next terrapin. I wonder if he's moved from pan to pan to pan this afternoon. There we go. Brief view of his face now that he's lifted it up before he disappears behind the grass. blur of spots. Now, of course, there were reports that Inkanyeni, this cub's mother, I wouldn't call him a cub now, I'd call him a sub-adult. There were rumors that she has suckle marks, and we did see her mating with a male named Quarantine not too long ago. So it's possible that she's gone off and she's had cubs, which of course is one of the hardest times in a young leopard's life. Because even though mom might still share kills with him if he finds her, she's not, her sole attention is no longer devoted to him. And what a complicated feeling that must be in the life of a leopard. I suppose once they reach a certain age, their instinct tells them that they're meant to be a solitary animal. But I always feel that it must be an utter wrench for young leopards to eventually have to move away from their mum. And he'll probably hang out here for another 6 to maybe even 12 months. But eventually he's going to have to leave. Now, perfect video. On that note, you want to know if he's too young to hunt for large prey. We just discussed the fact that he's essentially a 1.5 years old almost. And that is not too young to hunt for his own prey. However, he is quite small. I think he's quite small for his age. And he perhaps hasn't got to the point where he's gained enough confidence. However, we don't know what he's doing in between hunting terrapins. It might be that he's caught his own small antelope. He's definitely big enough. He's essentially the same size as Shongile, maybe just a little bit bigger. So I have no doubt he'd be capable of catching something like a duiker or a steenbok, small antelope. But I think it's a confidence thing as well. I really truly believe that a young leopard cub of this sort of age needs that confidence, needs to build up from the bottom up. And terrapins might just be, some leopards do just specialize. Some specialize in catching water things, some specialize in scavenging. Tingana was rumored to be a specialist aardvark hunter when I first arrived here, because he killed something like 4 in a row. And we've definitely seen him hunt lots of warthog, so it seems to specialize in burrowing animals. Good question from Anne in Maryland, who'd like to know if terrapins can see leopards and would they run away from them. They can see them. They would certainly pick up on the movement. And it's the same when we walk up to the surface, or not the surface, the edge of the water. What was I talking about? I've completely lost my train of thought. I got distracted by the game drive radio.
If we can approach...
Oh yes, terrapins. That was it. Yeah, so if we go up to the surface of the water, terrapins will duck down and swim away. And the same would apply for leopards, but they wouldn't run away, they'd swim away. They'd immediately duck down underneath the surface of the water. And that water's so dirty, once they're past a certain point, it will be very, very difficult for him to catch up with them. Are you off? Did you hear if anyone else was coming? Cool, enjoy. Cheers. I'm just saying my farewells to the other vehicle, driven by Ali, but we have something exciting to tell you. James has found animals on alert.
James has found nothing on the road. Tingana is apparently quite some distance from us now. He's walking at great speed, marking his territory. I did find a giant land snail. Well, it's an ex-giant land snail. It used to be a giant land snail. Now it is a cup. And if you read all the books written by people who've never lived in this area, they will tell you, of course, that this used to be used as a cup by the indigenous people of this area. It's a very poor cup. It is also to say that people in this area didn't ever have pottery, which of course they did. And so I think it's far more likely that indigenous people of this area used clay pots to drink their water out of, rather than disgusting smelling land snail shells. I think that is a tale of the white man, rather than a tale of actuality. And I often think, when I look at things like this, and I look at the medicinal uses of trees in books and that sort of thing, that many of them are probably made up. A lot of them, well, very, very few of them that I've read have I ever corroborated with someone like Herbert, whose mother, of course, is a traditional healer, and so he would know. And I just think it's quite interesting that we talk so much about indigenous knowledge, and we talk about, the local people of this area, and half the time I think we don't actually know what we're talking about. So it is always very important to have a man like Herbert with a genuine sort of indigenous knowledge of the area, because it makes the experience so much richer, and it also preserves that knowledge in a way that books written by people who haven't necessarily got the experience that he does, they'll just never have that kind of knowledge. So that's my story of the giant land snail, which I'm not going to use as a cup, because I don't think it's a very good cup. In fact, I think it's terrible. That brings me to my next story, which I'm going to tell you after I've shown you this flower. And I said 2 days ago that the flowers had stopped blooming and only the Vernonia was left. That's all there was. And since then, everything has started to bloom. And it seems to be the last hurrah, if you like, of many of the flower species. Now I want to smell this one, because white flowers normally smell, but this one doesn't smell. So I'm not sure how it attracts its insect pollinators. I don't know what it is either, I'm afraid. Judy, H, can you help me out here? That's a bit lazy of me to ask you without even looking it up, but I'm not sure what this particular flower is, so I shall try and find out a little bit later. And what was I going to tell you? Oh yes, I was going to tell you that I possibly shouldn't have thrown that land snail away, because you've seen me draw, you've all seen me draw, or many of you have seen me draw, and I remember I once had a report card from school on my art, and we had made beer glasses for our fathers with clay. This was when I was 13 or so, and mine didn't hold liquid, which of course made it sort of fairly useless. And the very kind comment from the sympathetic art teacher was, "His work lacks finish." I thought that was very kind. Over there is Taylor, and she is looking for Tingana.
We are looking for Tingana. I'm looking around from left, right. We had his tracks crossing the road. James and Herbie heard him. Where has he gone? I have got absolutely no idea where this leopard has gone. So what I have done is we just popped onto Chitwa just to check this road that's quite close to the boundary. It runs parallel with Gari Main. And I know that he likes to walk this route. You see the here we go. He's here. He's somewhere. I've just had his tracks. I'm not going to stop for his tracks because they're very fresh. Yeah, okay, great. We're on tracks again, but there's impala and zebra up ahead. Now, there isn't... Is the squirrel alarming? Hear the squirrels? There they are. Let's have a look at the squirrels. No, now they've run away. We're just listening because they're shouting, so he must be here. There he is! Yay, leopard! Now I do just want to let Mike Grover know. Hello, boy. Because he was asking about this leopard. Mike for Taylor. But it looks like it's Tingana, just from the size of him. Mike Grover for Taylor, if you copy, I managed to locate Tingana. He's on that road that runs parallel with Gari Main and Chitwa. It runs on the eastern side of the dam. Sorry, bad luck Just letting him know, because Mike was the one who was helping us search for Tingana, and I was really hoping we were going to get it on a spot where he could also come and have a look, but unfortunately he cannot. Now I am going to have to call the sighting in too. Let me see if I can call anybody in. Actually, no, I don't have any signal for the moment, so we'll just leave it for a couple of minutes. I'll have to maybe move a bit closer to the lodge and to higher ground. Now, of course, it's this lovely leopard, and I'm going to put a light on him. So please excuse me if you see the car moving slightly. I'm just going to put one of my LEDs over there. Well spotted, also a sensor, and let's turn that one on. There we go, just creating a little bit of warm light, if you will. Isn't this very cool? I'm going to roll forward, if we can. Should we see if we can get a better angle? You can stay like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move slightly and see if we can find a better gap through the grass. How's that one? Can we see his eyes a bit better? I'm going to keep going like this just until we find the most perfect gap. I think if I go a little bit further forward, there we go. Hang on, almost. Almost! Yay! I have had leopards today, or a leopard. I have had elephants. It has been absolutely wonderful out here. Megan, I'm just confirming, am I still live? Because I haven't heard anything, and I know Wendy's signal out here is not the greatest. Fantastic. I'm so happy. I was worried for a minute. Megan was very quiet. It must be because she's so excited to see so many leopards today. And I thought for a moment that I was perhaps just talking to myself. But I'm glad that I'm not talking to myself. I'm glad that I'm talking to all of you. And, well, thanks to those squirrels. Thank you, Tingana, for giving a rasping call that we were all able to hear. And luckily for us, we managed to find his tracks too, which was great. So all of those things together, what a wonderful combination in being able to find that leopard. So that's it. Being at the right place at the right time, or being close enough to the right place to follow up on a cat like this. Now, I just want to try and call the sighting in very quickly. Can any stations copy me? I don't think I've got good signal here. Ellie, I've located Mukulumadora Ingwe. He is, I'm not sure what the name of the road is, the road that runs parallel to Gallery Main on Chitwa. We're basically about 300 meters north of the lodge. I've got visual of the lodge. I don't have very good comms though, it's just myself here. Space for two. I'm east of the open area. I can see the setup, but he's basically just on that road that runs on the eastern side of the lodge and parallel to Gari Main. I'm quite close to the lodge. He's static for the moment. Cool, so we actually it's just speaking to Ellie, in case you were wondering. You might be able to hear the hippos calling in the distance too. Copy, thanks, Ellie. I'm going to go radio down just for a little bit of... I don't have good comms. If anybody wants to come and join me, they're more than welcome. There's space for two. There we go. So it's very, very hard to try and chat to the other guys. It's just a bit scraggly, the radio at the moment. So at least we've notified Ellie, 'cause she's driving at Chitwa at the moment. I think she's having a sundowner currently, which is actually not too far from here. And wouldn't that be a fantastic way to end your day with a big male leopard strolling past while you're having a sundowner in the bush? And I can tell you that that's happened to all of us as guides. It's the most amazing thing to experience, a big male leopard walking past you on foot. Now, we have had experiences before where Tingana, of course, doesn't like people on foot, but that's, of course, when you're tracking. However, I think that he'll be okay this time because he'll hear all the noise. He'll just watch from a distance and carry on. But there's also some zebra and impala not too far from him, about 100 meters away. And I reckon that's going to be his next position. If you just look just all the way down over there, you can see the lodge. You see bits and pieces of the lodge. And then, of course, the impala, an whole herd of impala, and a couple of zebra too. What we're going to do is we're going to send you across to James now. The light is starting to fade, and we'll be back with you in a moment.
if someone says it's been bad. Oh, we're live. That was quite a sudden live. Hello, everybody. We didn't realise. I think we had a small problem with the communications. Anyway, here we are, enjoying ourselves the last few minutes of our bushwalk at Twin Dams. There is no hippopotamus here, as far as I can tell, but there is quite a lot going on beneath the surface of the water. And I think that the catfish have come back. I don't think they've migrated from anywhere. I think they've come out of their eggs and come out of the mud, and I think for the first time in a long while we have catfish here. Now, this dam was dug out, of course, to make it the size that it is, and so I suspect that there were quite a lot of catfish eggs and buried catfish that would have been there sort of overwintering that probably died during that process. But there's definitely a lot of fish activity now underneath the water, and you can just see the fish rising there to grab things. That's fantastic. It's just so peaceful. Alright, everybody, we're about to try and hitch a lift home, so we're going to say goodbye from the bushwalk, see you tomorrow, and hand you back over to Jamie and Vutomi.
It is indeed getting to dark. It is getting to dark. And if young Vutomi decides to hunt again, in the past we would have had to sit in darkness and just listen to his efforts. However, this time around, we don't have to worry because, of course, we've got our infrared all set up. But for now, this is perfectly okay to sit with him. But as it does start to get darker, then we will switch to the infrared. I still can't get over, I love those moments of discovery in the bush. It's somehow not more fun, it's just fun in a different kind of way when we get to share finding the animal with you. Because a lot of the time we've tracked them, it's not as frequent that we stumble upon the animal while we're with you. And that to me is a wonderful thing to share. And you get to share in our excitement. Isn't this the second time with Vutomi this has happened in a week? I'm sure it happened with James not too long ago as well. Now, Domza, you want to know what is the leopard's main threat animal-wise? A lion would probably be the biggest threat to a leopard. But we so frequently see, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't go back just ever so slightly. Let's just get that branch out of his face. We frequently see leopards, once they're at a certain age, often lying very close to hyenas without being too bothered by their presence. There we go. It's a pleasure, Seb. Anything. Anytime. What was I? Oh, yes. So, and lions are really the cat that is capable of doing the most damage to them. Lions and wild dogs. And both of those species, like all predators, will target and try and catch other predators if they can. Now, wild dogs and leopards, baboons can be an enormous threat for cubs, as can hyenas and other such creatures, even unknown male leopards. And in fact, nomadic male leopards are probably responsible for more leopard cub deaths than any other predator. However, man, of course, sits right up there above everything else, as we always do, unfortunately. Combination of habitat loss, poaching, hunting, particularly on farms. Not all farms, obviously. There are some very environmentally conscious farmers. So I'm definitely not going to put them all into one box. But in situations where there is a farmer that doesn't want a leopard eating his livestock, unfortunately what often happens is that leopard doesn't survive. So mankind, hands down, the biggest killers of leopards. However, luckily for us, the leopards that we see are completely protected. Liz, that's an interesting question. I'm talking about the movements of leopards, and of course you've been with that big dominant male, Tingana. Liz, you want to know, do we find that the dominant males patrol less? Which of course is something that Vutomi isn't going to be doing anytime soon. But if they patrol less during winter, because there's less rain, so there's less chance of their scent marking being washed away. I suppose there is something to that. It's a good point, because we always talk about how after it's rained, it's perfect big cat weather, because they all come out to re-scent mark. However, I think there's a far larger circumstantial factor as well. At the moment, Tingana is patrolling more than I've ever known him to patrol. He is moving constantly. It seems like he's moving in constant clockwise circles through his territory. Onto Arathusa, through Simbambili, onto Djuma, onto Djuma's northern cut line, back into Torchwood and down south onto Cheetah Plains, rinse and repeat. And he's been doing that. He's always been a leopard that walks a lot, but to me, he is particularly focused right now. I don't know why that would be. I don't know if it's pressure from another male. I don't know if there's young up-and-coming males that have been wandering about that perhaps have made him feel threatened. I don't know if it's perhaps, dare I say, the lack of female attention. There's his broken canine, the bottom left. Or there's the lack of canine on the bottom left. You get a chance to see it nicely. That sounds ridiculous, but I mean, Tingana hasn't had a female to mate with in a long time. Kirk, you say, is he still eating that terrapin? He is still eating this terrapin. Seems a lot of effort, doesn't it, for what must be a relatively poor and really not nice tasting meal, especially when it comes with the risk of breaking teeth. You can see that he's got in though, and it's hard. It's not an easy thing for a leopard to get into, and it really is taking him a very long time. So hopefully he has been supplementing his diet. I've just remembered this, I've heard he's killed an impala before, a baby impala. So he is capable. Bobby, watching our poor leopard struggle with his terrapin dinner, you want to know how many terrapins does it take to make a full meal for this leopard? I can guess and say for a nice full belly it would take more than he would actually go to the trouble of catching. I would say if a leopard of his size is probably capable of eating, let's say, half a deka in one sitting. That's quite a high estimate, but let's put it at that. So let's put it at around about, give or take, 8 kilograms. Terapin only weighs a couple of 100 grams, the little ones that he's capable of getting into. So really, you're looking at, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 terrapins. I'm not doing the math right now. It's a lot. But they are enough to sustain him and give him the energy that he needs. He's heard something. One thing I want to be very careful about is making sure that if there is a herd of antelope coming to the water, that we don't give Vutomi's position away. I really don't want to do that. He's perfectly hidden now. I can hear something drinking. So, keep the spotlight on him. No, whatever it is, it's not of interest to him, and therefore not too much of a worry from us. And Meg, sorry, can I have that name one more time? I just definitely don't want to get it wrong. To actually be able to put implants in or anything like that, so it'd be really difficult. If he lost his teeth because of people, then yes, we would definitely help him. But if he lost his teeth by eating terrapins, then no, we wouldn't. But remember that a leopard doesn't just rely on its canine teeth. It also relies on their claws, the power of their jaw, their front teeth, their back teeth. So even if he did lose his canines, there's still a chance that he would be able to be well fed and survive absolutely healthily. I knew a caracal once with no canines, and she was fine and still equally terrifying. So it does happen. Leopards lose teeth. I also knew a leopard known as Shilaweni. Shilaweni was caught in a trap, which was a big metal cage, not a trap like a gin trap, a metal cage. And he was so angry and upset. He was being transported, I think, off a farm. I don't know his full backstory. I think he was being transported off a farm and was going to be released elsewhere. And Shilaweni ended up ultimately pulling out all 4 of his canine teeth in the course of the night. And they ultimately really did look at ways of putting. One of the thoughts they had was titanium implants to replace his canine teeth. Eventually it was decided it was going to be a hugely traumatic process, and he unfortunately lived the rest of his life in captivity. But such things do happen. Oh wow. That's very beautiful. Seems an appropriate way to spend an evening, does it not? It's such a pity he's found himself in such an awkward position, because I was certain he was going to go hunting again. And hi to Mia. Mia, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It has been a wonderful evening so far. Mia, you want to know at what age do leopards typically leave their mothers? On average, remember, every individual is different, just like every human being is different. You're usually looking at the females becoming independent slightly sooner, maybe about 1.5 years, sometimes a bit later. And the males, because remember, the males are going to have a far tougher time of things in terms of having to dodge other dominant males in an area. So they will usually leave at around 2 or so years old. Sometimes they hang around even longer than that. The average, based on scientific research, the average gap between litters is 25 months. And obviously once a female leopard has a new set of cubs, then she will immediately become invested in that set of cubs, and generally speaking, any offspring that we're planning on hanging around get the idea, and off they go. So the average is 25 months between litters. That's basically 2 years. And then it's time to be on your way. So at 18 months-ish, not quite, I don't think. Surely he can't be as old as that. Is that really how time has flown? He looks so small. He's still a little bit young still. Shame. Having to use those sharp spurs on his tongue to scrape away at the shell. Welcome to Anne in Maryland, and there's quite a few new names here, which is lovely to hear. New viewers, I believe. It's lovely to have you, and thank you for sending through your question, Anne. You want to know if our leopards will stay here during winter or if they migrate. And leopards don't migrate. They are strictly territorial, and those territories will stay relatively fixed. They don't migrate according to whether it's winter or summer. They're not like herds of wildebeest or something like that. These animals will constantly have access to antelope, because most antelope don't migrate. Most antelope will be around. So their primary source of food will be here all year round. So as nice as it would be to think that perhaps Karula is wintering in somewhere to the south of us, they don't migrate at all. Their territories will change over time, and their territories are fluid, so it's not a set box that they live in. Their territories will change, and certainly there might be a little bit of a degree of movement, depending on, let's say there's more water in one part of their territory at a certain time of year. The food might be a bit better there, so they'll spend more time there. But other than that, that's not what we would describe as a migration. And in fact, nothing really out here migrates in the official way apart from birds. Birds and bats are the things that migrate out here. Even our antelope don't follow the same seasonal movements that they might somewhere like in East Africa. But luckily for us, otherwise imagine, how would we do our live safaris if they all migrated? Oh, Kirk, you want to know whether or not I could perhaps explain to you the 3-4 spot pattern? Yes, with pleasure. However, can I insert a disclaimer here? I find the spot patterns are the official way to do things, and they absolutely have their place in terms of research. I personally find that I like to look for markers in the leopard in their spots, unique patterns, stuff that I can remember. And you find that I personally find that easier. However, the official research way that these animals are recorded and the way in which they're kept a record of is to look at the top row of spots above the whiskers. And of course, this is going to be very, very difficult for us to do here. And if I'd had any common sense, I would have got the pictures that Brent usually used to demonstrate from him before he left, but it's too late for that now, unfortunately. But the top row of spots, there, he might give you a view. There you go. You can just count them. It's very difficult when he's eating a terrapin. So you count the top row of spots above the whiskers, and you count the number of spots there. And you start on the right, and then you work your way to the left, and that will give you the spot pattern. And each and every single leopard has either 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 even spots on one side, and then a number of spots on the other side. And obviously that gives you a wide range, because a leopard could be a 4-4, it could be a 2-4, it could be a 2-3, whatever it happens to be. But bear in mind that there's a limited number of those combinations, and that sometimes leopards will have the same spot pattern. And then in that case it's about territories, it's about other defining features. A missing tooth would be a good example, a missing lower left canine, to distinguish Vutomi from another leopard with the same spot pattern. A notch in the ear, a scar, although you've got to be careful with scars, because scars heal and disappear as time marches on, or change. But those are the sorts of things that researchers will look for.
Hear that?
I do hear that.
What is that?
That's a bird of some sort. What on earth is that? I'm just going to take my spotlight off for Tommy for now. I have absolutely no idea what that bird call was.
Not an owl or...
I'm thinking owl as well, but it's not an owl I've ever heard out here. I'm totally bemused. Totally. Oh, I can't even do it now. Oh, stopped. As soon as I put my spotlight out. Confused. Very, very confused. Apologies for getting distracted by the leopard, from the leopard. I just don't know that sound. I'll have to go and do some research and some asking around. Apparently a lot of you are saying, to get back to the subject at hand, or on face, as it happens to be, apparently a lot of you are saying that the best way that you tell the different leopards apart is their spot pattern around their eyes, identifying marks around the eyes. I'm with you on that. I look at the eyes. Just in general, I look at the eyes. I find that each and every leopard has unique, completely unique eyes. May soon be time for us to switch to infrared. However, Taylor has beaten us to it. Let's go and see what Tingana looks like in black and white.
We have indeed put the infrared on, as you can see. He has got up and inched his way closer and closer to where the impala are, and I can actually just start to see a couple of them. He's gone from being about 100 meters away from them to about 60 meters, 70 meters away from them. So he's getting closer. Now, I got a little bit worried about him earlier because he stepped out onto the road slightly, and I thought, ooh, Tingana, that's a bit silly, because if he steps too far out on the road, he would have exposed himself. But I was the silly one in that situation. He was actually using the curvature, the bend in the road to his advantage, and he was still hidden behind the grass. So he moved well away from the road. He's now putting a bit of vegetation, sort of some small shrubs between him. And hopefully he's going to continue going south, because there he'll find himself some impala. How cool is this? We are so lucky to have infrared. It really does make all the difference. Sorry, oh my goodness. We are sitting in complete darkness at the moment. I can just see his shadow sort of moving through the grass, and I think he's found himself a target. There's an entire herd of impala, like I said. There must have been about 50 of them, but there's lots of young rams that shouldn't be around the breeding herd at the moment, and they were. Well, this is when it was light that I could see it. There were a lot of them hanging towards the outskirts, which is super exciting, because like I was telling you all yesterday, is they are sort of very confused at the moment as to why they're being told to leave the herd. And they're also watching their back, and they've been separated. So every now and then they're on their own too. We're going to give him a little bit of room now, so we'll just watch him as he takes up his next position. And once he's stopped, then we'll start to move as well. I don't want to, of course, give the impala, an opportunity to spot him. Well, I do want the impala to have an opportunity to spot him naturally. And by naturally, I mean I don't want to muffle the sound. There we go. There's an alarm call. Right, let's get going. That was really funny. As we basically... Oh, hang on. I will tell you in a moment. So what happened there was quite funny, actually. As that impala alarmed, straight away, almost instantly it responded. Now I've got my spotlight out. I'm going to just try and find him again. It's like he went, okay, well, I've been spotted now. What is the point? I can see the zebras. I can't see Tingana. Went. Right, let's see if we can find this leopard. Now long, it's so hard. Right, we're going to go across to Jamie now. Tingana's marking his territory. We just need to find a bit of better signal.
While Taylor goes off in search of signal, we too have switched to infrared, and we have signal, but we're not going anywhere. And I'm just going to try and get us a view. Quite tricky in the dark. Working off what I'm seeing in the monitor. Oh, hold on a sec. I wonder how that view is going to be. Let me turn on my light quickly just to see. Seb. Okay. Alright, let's have a look-see and see whether or not we've actually got a view of him. That's a bit tricky. The light is not on anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it back on.
No worries. I'll let you know if I see anything. Oh, no. There we go.
Okay.
I don't know why I was looking as if you'd need me to tell you. And the whole world lights up.
Okay, there he is.
There he is. This is all quite a tricky process for us. I say us. Our cameraman. And welcome to Sweater from India. Hello, and I hope you're enjoying the sunset safari. You want to know why is it that leopards prefer living on their own as opposed to as a social grouping, as lions do? Well, bear in mind it's not just leopards. In fact, it's more that lions are the exception to the rule rather than the norm. So most cats, all cats are solitary except for, well, lions. And it's less of a question of why it is that leopards are solitary and more of a question of why is it that leopards are solitary, why is it that lions are social. One of the theories put forward, and remember these are just theories, but they come with a lot of interesting evidence, is the fact that human beings and lions would have been evolving around the same time, and as the biggest cat, lions probably would have struggled. So by putting themselves into group and evolving to be a social cat, one of the theories argues that in that way they reduced competition with human beings, or it was a way in which they could compete with human beings. And it would be interesting to see the success rate, to really compare the success rate of being a social hunter, wild dogs, lions, hyenas, as opposed to a solitary hunter. Each one has its advantages and its drawbacks. If you're solitary, means you get all of the spoils. You don't have to share in the way that we've seen the wild dog share. If you are in a group, if you get injured, you've got a much better chance of being fed, because the rest of the group will hunt for you and they'll share their kill with you. Now, I don't have an exact answer. It's part of parcel of the way that leopards have evolved, their secretive nature, their solitary nature. But remember that lions are the exception in the cat world, rather than the norm. It might be one of those questions that we'll only ever have theories to answer. We might never ever know exactly why something is the way it is. Imagine a pride of leopards. It'd be terrifying. They'd be unstoppable. A pride of leopards. It'd be interesting. So back onto the question, while we listen to Vutomi slowly but surely doing what probably would have given my mom nightmares when I was a child. I was always being told not to crunch those suckers that I'd been given, or lollipops as you might call them, wherever you happen to be in the world. I was always strictly instructed not to do that. And Vutomi's giving us nightmares here. So the question is, well, which of the teeth is the most valuable to a leopard? That is a really hard question to answer, because it depends. Lose all 4 canines, and yes, that is going to be a huge disadvantage. Lose 2 molars, 1 on each side, and you've also got a really serious problem. Because remember the way that leopards bite and cut meat. Now, I don't know if any of you have eaten venison that isn't particularly well cooked or well prepared, but if you have, you'll have a rough idea of how tough it is. Now, I've never eaten raw terapin or raw impala, but I can imagine that it's very, very tough. And that's one of the reasons why leopards and lions and predators have what's known as the carnassial shear, which is the way in which the molars and the premolars slide together like a pair of scissors. So cutting through the meat in a scissor-like motion, rather than trying to pull it away with their incisors or their canines. And that's really important, because ultimately that's the way that they go about eating. I would say presumably their incisors would be the least important. Remember, they have 6 on the top and 6 on the bottom, but they're tiny teeth. And I guess those are probably the least important. But it'd be hard to say. My money's on molars, actually. Difficult question to answer, though, but a good one, a very good one. That's why I love these live safaris. You make me think about things that I might not otherwise have thought about. stomach is rumbling so loudly. I promise you it's not this. I don't know if you're actually picking up on it or not, but I thought I'd just excuse myself just in case. It's the thought of Amanda's dinner, not the Terapin, that's causing those sounds. Oh, Megan, you naughty girl.
No.
She's got a sense of humor there. Megan has instructed us to increase the ambient mic to pick up my tummy rumbles. No, it's okay. I think we'll keep it where it is.
I won't do that, Jamie.
Thank you, Seb. He's a gentleman.
Mine might also be rumbling.
Ah, that's so you cover your own bases as well. We've had 2 different leopards this evening. 2 different spectrums of essentially the same life cycle. One young leopard and one much older, much larger leopard. Ali, you want to know whether or not Tingana and Vutomi would fight if they were to run into each other? Typically, the answer should be yes. Fight, not even necessarily just fight. There would be a very good chance that Tingana would kill Vutomi if he could catch him. A very, very good chance, because Tingana is not dominant in this area, so there's very slim chance that he's actually Vutomi's father, something that he would recognize, and that would essentially put him in the mood to eliminate potential future competition, which he might not do with his own offspring. However, you all, those of you who have been watching or keeping track of these leopards for a while, you know why I'm saying generally. Because, of course, Vutomi's father was probably Shimvambalana, so Karula's son. However, Karula's younger son, Quarantine, was seen having an encounter with Vutomi, and it was a totally bizarre and unexpected sighting, where it was almost, Inkanyeni was running away, so this cub's mother was running away, but Quarantine and Vutomi, it almost looked like Vutomi wanted to play. And there were times where I assumed Quarantine was going to go in for the kill, and he just never did. So, what common sense and perhaps even the textbooks might say, doesn't always happen. The wildlife out here is unpredictable. It does very strange things. And it's taught us all a few harsh lessons about making snap judgments. Which is why I would absolutely give my bottom left canine to be able to be an animal for a day. To experience their world. Not just take, have my own mind and be in an animal form. I mean to actually really have a chance to perceive the way that they perceive the world. In the way that they do, senses and all. Imagine how cool it would be. Maybe not an animal that was eating a terrapin, though. I have to confess, my desire does not extend that far. Ugh. I have smelt terrapins. They are not particularly nice. I can't even imagine what eating one must be like. Mr. Vutomi, this has been the longest meal in the world. I know your mom probably told you to chew your food properly, but you might be taking things a bit far. Shame, I'm being facetious. Can't be easy, having to do this for each and every single tiny scrap of terrapin meat, which really isn't all that much. And apparently he was hunting terrapins at Nkoro earlier today, so he's literally spent his entire day catching, crunching, catch, crunch, repeat. Creep, catch, and crunch. Hey, little Vutomi. I wonder where we're going to find you tomorrow. If we're going to find you tomorrow. You can see this is really hard. Although, watching a leopard eat an impala or something like that, they're usually There's a lot of crunching and a lot of scraping and a lot of chewing the same piece of meat over and over. I guess... No, there is a huge difference. This is not nice. Maybe he'll get lucky and a scrub hare will become wandering in. I mean, he's so hidden at the moment that absolutely anything could stumble straight across the spot. I wonder if this is one of the reasons why he's here. No, I don't think so. I think he just sought out cover. But either way, it will work out in his favor because he's on a game path. He's on actually the intersection of several game paths leading to the water. Perhaps advantage, perhaps disadvantage. And dear Vaping Raven, your username has inspired a very peculiar image in my head. But Vaping Raven, you want to know what time of day or evening leopards are most active? These hours, actually. The hours around about darkness, the fall of darkness. According to research, but I think it really differs from place to place. According to research, in theory, up to around about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then they get active again very early in the morning. That will differ depending on the time of the sunrise and the sunset. Again, because there's no strict rules out here, I've seen leopards wandering around in the middle of the day in 40-degree heat. They really, really like to confuse us. They like to do unexpected and strange things, and those of you with pet cats, perhaps you'll be familiar with that sort of a drive from the feline family. I would say, actually, the majority of my leopard sightings, although I guess it's biased because I don't spend that much time driving around at night, my majority of leopard sightings have been in the middle of the day. Well, there's something special about this time of evening, regardless of whether or not leopards are more active, and that's the fact that all kinds of things come out to play. Let's go and see whether or not Taylor has found any nocturnal creatures.
Sadly, the nocturnal creature that I had earlier, the nocturnal creature, of course, is what I was trying to say, and that being Tingana, made a slippery escape. He was very sneaky. He basically was walking, he went through the drainage line in the end, just east of Chitwa Lodge, so in the Mulwanini, and unfortunately it's so thick it's almost impenetrable, and as well as the fact that there are many gremlins that live behind there. So the guides are basically just waiting for him to come out now. I think he was terribly upset that an impala had spotted him after his... I don't think he really put too much effort into trying to stalk them either. So it snorted, and then of course he started soaring, which was really quite funny. I think it was almost out of frustration, like, now I've got to go and try and catch some animals somewhere else. And I think what he might just do is maybe he'll just settle down for a little bit in that very, very dense vegetation and a nap, recuperate, think of a game plan again, and then try and re-stalk the same group of impala or another group of impala, because as you've seen, there's no shortage of them at the moment, so there's plenty of things for him to go to. What would be quite interesting is that there were a number of zebra amongst the herd of impala too, and there were a couple of very young foals like the one we saw yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari on Cheetah Plains, and I think Tingana would very easily be able to take down a young zebra foal, and I'm wondering if he'd go for something like that, or if he'd go for something a little bit easier, like a very confused impala ram, a young impala ram. I think that's what he'll probably go for. Don't think he'll have to put as much effort in as perhaps trying to take down a young zebra foal. That would be quite challenging. So we moved out and we're back on Djuma and we're searching for things. We're searching for chameleons now, any other leopards, shongile or horsano, if they're wanting to pop up, that's fine too. Or what else do we find at night? Porcupines, aardvark, the elusive ones. Hopefully we'll start to get seeing them. Maybe a honey badger. But realistically, I think on a chilly night tonight, we might be lucky and get to see a snake sort of warming itself on the roads. Maybe a chameleon, if my eyes are good enough to spot one, but I haven't seen anything just yet. And it has been a while now since I last spotted a chameleon. Now, Etienne, you're wondering if I've ever seen an aardvark or an anteater since I've been at Safari Live. Unfortunately not, which is very sad. I've seen honey badger very quickly on a walk once. I haven't seen porcupine here either, but I've been very lucky. I've seen many aardvark in my guiding career, which was fantastic. Definitely not complaining about that. At one point I saw an aardvark for about 3 weeks. Every single night we just worked out where his burrow was, and he used to come out and sort of at the same time every single evening, and I would wait there. And then he would come out, and he actually got quite relaxed with the vehicle, which was really nice to see. But since then, I haven't really had any aardvark sightings, unfortunately. Just a little bronze-wing courser that was just on the road. And we're coming along Weaver's Nest now. We're about to join up with Philemon's cut line. So you know what that means. There's a potential to see some hyenas this evening. And I think they've all been hanging around Ribbon's den around here. So maybe they've just left the den and will be out and about somewhere, but we're going to just keep on scanning. Of course, we never stop searching for any animals. We're always on the lookout, always listening. Even when we go to bed at night, I can't help but start thinking about what I'm going to see on the sunrise safari. So that's why it's always good to, of course, listen out. It gives you a chance to plan your routes and hopefully find some animals. You know what I did see, which was quite interesting earlier on, and I forgot to mention it to you because I was on a high from all of the elephants that had surrounded me, was the fact that I saw some male lion tracks around Hyena Road on Buffalo's Cut Line. Now, they looked fairly dusty, so I'm wondering if they weren't from yesterday morning, perhaps. So there was one of the Birminghams was lurking about on the property. They don't seem to be staying for very long. And I suppose if there isn't any big buffalo around, and that's their favorite food, there's no point in them being here, constantly searching for all sorts of things. No, it's just a leaf. I thought I saw a chameleon. Now this is one of my favorite chameleon spotting spots. There are lots of them down here, normally in Philemon's Dip. We're going to keep searching, of course, as Jamie called them, the creatures of the night. She has left Vutomi now. What a great sighting we've both had. Let's go and see how she feels after a wonderful day.
I feel ecstatic after a wonderful day. Seb, how do you feel?
Wow, fantastic.
There we go. Fantastic, terrific, all the positive adjectives, including Kirsty's favourite, incredible and spectacular, are all right up there on the list of descriptions as to how we feel. It's very exciting, and I'm very happy to see Vutomi once again. It's been a while, and I'm happy to catch up with him, to see him looking fine and looking after himself, which is the most important thing. I'm chuffed. I'm happy now.
Yeah, it keeps us warm.
Keeps us, yes, the thought will have to keep us warm on the long, very chilly journey home. I just couldn't take it anymore. The thought of that terrapin was making me so hungry that we just had to start our return towards whatever meal, I think it's happiness this evening, whatever meal happiness has in store for us. She truly does live up to her name in gastronomic terms. I'm excited. It's a good thing we're not squeamish. Otherwise, all the things we see might just put us off our food. But it would take more than that for me. So we are edging our way back towards home. Christina, you want to know quickly if we were ever scared in the dark out here. Very seldom am I scared. Have I been scared in the past? Yes, I have. Most of those have been connected to full moon, not anti-poaching drives that I used to do, but basically driving around, essentially just trying to make life more difficult for poachers. So those are the times where I have been scared. And a couple of times with the infrared, I wouldn't have described it as scared. I wasn't scared, but I was aware of my heart beating faster, and I was aware of an instinct tugging at me, telling me that this was counterintuitive, to sit in the dark with lions walking right past the vehicle and not be able to see them. If I can see them, it's a different story. Now, I guess yes, if I'm completely honest, I have been scared, but I've been far more scared in the city than I've ever been here. And on that note, farewell everyone. I'm going to send you across and over to Taylor. Let's find out if she's ever been scared.
All the time, Jamie. Here's my secret. I'm the biggest wimp out there, but I'm like you. I'm more afraid to be out at night in the cities than I am to be out at any time of the day. Out here in the bush, we are very safe out here. We've got elephants protecting us. We've got lions protecting us, of course, and all these wonderful animals. So no, I'm not bothered at all out here. I don't like thunder. Not my favorite, and we have the most ridiculous lightning storms and thunderstorms out here, and you've heard some of them on the dam cam. You know exactly the kind of storms that we get here, so that makes me sort of shiver just a little bit. Scared of the dark? I'm known to be one, after a scary movie, to sleep with a bathroom light on or something, put my lamp on. Senzo's laughing, but it's fine. We'll see when it's funny, when we get charged by a lion on foot one day and it's his first experience. Now, of course, I'm only teasing. Yes, I'm not even afraid to admit it. I don't care. I'm a little sissy sometimes, but that's all right. Have we got a chameleon, or is it's a leaf? Don't even bother looking there. I'm my mind was actually looking for leaves. It wasn't looking for chameleons at all. And that's what, of course, what I'm doing as I'm talking utter nonsense to all of you, is I'm trying to spot something that will save me from having to talk utter nonsense and tell you my deepest, darkest secrets. Stop trying to get them out of me. It's enough now. Of course, I'm just joking. Lots of impala around. The wildebeest will be here in the morning, which will be wonderful. That'll be quite nice. Maybe the return of the McCurdy herdie for the sunrise safari. I don't know which zebras were the ones that were at Chitwa. It didn't look like there were very many of them, and the ones that were there all seemed to have a foal at their side. Now I know that the McCurdy herdie doesn't have too many young foals. I think there's the one youngest one, and there's a couple that are only a few years old. But other than that, there's no tiny ones. Oh, I think we can put a little light on. So I'm just scanning still. But I never really have luck with the chameleons around camp. I don't know where they all hide. They're exceptionally good at hiding. But I hope that you've enjoyed this afternoon's safari. It has been absolutely spectacular. I think starting off with the mongoose, of course, which was really, really lovely. Well, this is just my day. And then having all the different herds of elephants. And then, of course, the race and the chase just before the end of drive, and finding Tingana was an absolute highlight. It has been absolutely spectacular, of course, to have spent this entire afternoon with all of you, and I hope that you enjoyed it and got many screenshots. Remember to share them by hashtagging Safari Live. But we'll join you all tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Thank you for everything that you do, and we look forward to hearing from you.